Hello, my true crime lovelies. How are you? I hope you are well. I'm not going to go live tonight because I'm going to try to get to sleep. Both of the boys are asleep, and I think I'm going to try to get them up early tomorrow, and maybe that'll help break this weird sleep cycle we're in. Anyway, Miss Nancy Guthrie has still not been found yet. There's been a few updates, but I mean, we're basically where we were yesterday. Of course, still sending prayers and hope and lifting up her family and just hoping that the kidnappers, the abductors, have some decency, right? And they're feeding her and she's got a blanket or whatever else she needs. It's Arizona, so she might not need that, but at least keeping her comfortable, especially after Savannah saying that she lives in constant pain. The number to call, it's 800 call FBI if you have any tips, if you've seen anything abnormal or unusual, right? Like somebody buying extra groceries or extra linen or a twin bed or anything out of their normal routine. There were a lot of people doing, well, not a lot. I saw an interview with the sheriff from AP, and then Inton, I think it is. Brian Inton investigates. I believe he had an interview with them or with the sheriff, or it might have been CBS. I've seen a lot. I'm not going to show any clips because I can't attribute them properly. But the sheriff did not want to give up information on how the home was entered, but he feels like the investigative team does know the point of entry. Didn't want to reveal it because it might give away too much. So make of that what you will. Either it will give away, obviously, if they had a key, it's someone who knows them, or if they broke in through the garage or used the garage code or etc. So they do have that information. They did take her car and I believe the daughter's car, Annie's car, and they had analyzed that. They've been back and forth. Law enforcement is they've been back and forth on the property today. So last night, I believe the tape was down, or this morning, the last time you and I talked about this, the tape was down, but they did have the location secured overnight without the tape, right? So people couldn't just come and leave on the property at will. And then today, while they were out there, so they had pushed all the reporters to the street. And then later in the afternoon, like 5 o'clock Eastern time, they asked everyone to leave. They asked the reporters to clear the street entirely. And then FBI was there. FBI was canvassing, going door to door to the neighbors to see what they saw. So, unfortunately, the way the layout is, the homes are not like right on top of each other. It's definitely not a New York, like a Manhattan kind of vertical city thing, obviously. But it's also not even as close as like homes would be in most of Los Angeles, like in LA proper. And so it's not like you would see across the street the neighbor have a ring cam that could see to your house. And if you remember the pictures, her house set back from the street, or it hasn't moved. It still sets back from the street. So you can't just see like directly into her windows. And then for sure it was Brian Inton. Oh, I'm saying his name right. He had someone take us on a trip on his YouTube channel. So it's Brian Inton Investigates if you want to take a look into what would be the backyard, but it's a huge land and it's not necessarily perimetered. It's kind of like when I lived in Illinois, like Downers Grove in the suburbs, they don't have fences on their backyard, so you just kind of know where your property line is. It was that, except now imagine you don't have neighbors that are very close. It's very dense. There's like a lot of cacti because before they were saying desert landscape, and I'm thinking like it's sparse, but it's not. There's lots of cacti out there, so people can hide, and it's not like smooth, flat land like how I don't know if I was imagining Wile E. Coyote, but it's nothing like that. So it is rough terrain. So I feel like it's safe to say they didn't walk her out back, right? Or somewhere else, because I was like, maybe they did that like to avoid cameras, but she would not have been able to sort of manage that terrain without her, well, probably not at all, even with her assistive device, but I'm saying without her assistive device, since we know all of those are at home, whether that be a walker or a cane. She left without that. So we were talking about possibly her being carried out. There hasn't been clarification on if the doorbell, you okay, Liberty? I got up and they got up. They were asleep, but of course they can hear me. So there hasn't been clarification if so some people are now saying the doorbell was a Nest camera, and then there seems to be a second camera that caught the motion. However, most of these, like when you have a door camera, it's not hardwired to your house. Like you usually have a battery in it and then it's connected to Wi-Fi. You know what I mean? It's not like it's plugged in. So just taking it off wouldn't necessarily quote unquote unplug it. um I'm not familiar with the Google specific doorbell cam, but generally that's how it is. Which is kind of safe too, because if you figure like in the olden days, or at least in the movies, when they cut the power to your house, like your landline would go out, your lights would go out because the cords, were just on your house. So it could have been like, if it's the same camera, they took that doorbell off, and then as they moved through the house, it somehow sort of triggered it, and the camera on that doorbell did not capture the image or did not save it because there was no subscription. But then I've also heard like you don't need a subscription for the Nest. So I don't know. I have a Google Home, and I'm trying to I have to look at exactly what is covered and what isn't covered because everything is not recorded. um so there's that. There could be a second, because some people are like, well, it has to be someone who knows her, because how would they know where the cameras are? Well, that's true if it's the second camera, but I mean, everybody knows where your doorbell is. Do you know? So anyway, there was speculation, like could they have left on foot behind the house, not carrying her? Like if they did, they weren't carrying her, or maybe there was a gurney. But I mean, she's 150 pounds, she's 5'5", so she's weighs a little bit more than I do. And I just like, I can't imagine, unless they were giant men, just carrying me for miles. Do you know what I mean? So there would have to be, if you hear thunder, it's the sound that I play for the kids to sleep. It's not really thunder. I don't know. It was loud over here. I don't know if it's loud for you guys. So yeah, there's that going on. It seems most likely that they drove her out. I've seen reports that a neighbor reported having seen a white van, but I haven't seen where law enforcement picked that up or is following up on that. I don't know if they have a plate number. So if you guys have heard anything about the white van, let us know in the comments. And then what else? Oh, there was a second note. So here's the thing I don't think I quite understood when we talked yesterday morning. They being the family does not have a way to communicate with the kidnapper, so that makes more sense with the Instagram post. But it also seems strange because then the kidnappers slash abductors, I feel weird saying kidnappers and she's 84. I don't know, it sounds disrespectful. No disrespect, Miss Guthrie. Abductors, the whatever, you guys know what I mean. But they're pushing it into the public by not having a line of communication, right? Because then every time the Guthries talk, they've got to do it publicly, even though the instruction was not to contact them. But I also get why they would want a proof of life, because now they're saying it's this one payment. They could get a payment and then they could demand more and more. I know some people are like, oh, you should just give it. You don't want your loved one to think about, to think you're penny pinching. And I don't think that is it in and of itself. I mean, I would give whatever for my mom, whether, whatever I had to sell, but I would also want to know if she were alive, right? I would want as much as possible communication to figure out like who these people were, because even once I get her back, I still would want justice for her, because who's to say someone's not coming 2 weeks later? Do you know? So they don't have a way to communicate. The abductors have sent a second note. We didn't get a lot of information about that. There's still the second deadline on Monday. We know there's an escalating demand. I don't know if it's just more money at that point, or we're sending her pinky toe to you. I'm not exactly sure the specifics of the escalation, nor do I need to be. I was just trying to figure out, why would there be two? I'm not really sure on why there would, because obviously you would want to do it right away if the demand is escalating, right? You wouldn't want it to get to that point, but you need to know that your loved one is alive. This note came out for sure to the local Arizona media. It was the IP address was hidden, but they gave some sort of information to help law enforcement confirm that it's the same people. But whatever it is, their IP is concealed. It sounds like it was different reporting, and again, they like law enforcement did not do a public statement, so it's a little harder. But there was some reporting of like they confirmed the IP address, but it's different than the last one, but they gave this information to prove that it was them. Some others are saying it's concealed again. So it can't be a different one if it's concealed. Do you know what I mean? Like, make that make sense. I need a technology person to come on and explain it. I will say, like the sheriff, God bless him, he's got his work cut out for him. He is not tech savvy. So even in his explaining, he's getting frustrated though. He did express that because he's like, everyone thinks the technology can solve it, and it's not that easy. Like, just show me a picture of the bad guy. Fair enough. But there are other things that like could have happened. Like, was it saved locally? Was it saved on her iCloud? You know, there are other things that you can look about. Was anything saved about it? Like, were you able to see their skin tone? Any of those little things could help, right? Because it narrows down who um, your suspect field or persons of interest field. It narrows it down. I know we talked about possibly the brother-in-law or his bandmate. I looked at his rap sheet. I may do a members only. I'm not sure. I'm worried about putting too much out there because I don't know that it necessarily connects him or that it's related, and I don't want to create a distraction. But I'm also nosy, and I know for sure my members are nosy. So we might just go through it and just keep in mind that it's not necessarily specifically related. That being said, is based on everything that we know, it's still the son-in-law that is the last known person to see her alive. I say last known because obviously the kidnappers saw her, but I don't know if those are different people. So they would be unknown people to see her last, right? So I'm just trying to make that distinction specific. Yeah, so I don't know now that they've sent the kidnappers, the abductors have sent this new note in between the two deadlines, if now the family, the Guthries, have a way to contact them or it has to be public again. Also, it's so as far as the children, as far as Miss Nancy's children, so Savannah is excluded, even though they're not saying that. Well, her physically, she was in New York, and the brother, the Miss Nancy's son, Cameron, was in Vermont. Some of you guys are saying, what if it's like an Adelson type situation where someone in the family had someone else do the unaliving, but we don't know that she's unalived, right? And it just seems like elaborate to take her and risk her life if you intended to return her. Um, I don't see how they don't get caught. And so it's just a matter of when, I think. And obviously, I'm hoping that it is while Miss Nancy is alive and well. Or even if she's in bad shape, that she's in a place and space that she can make a full recovery. It is breaking my heart because Savannah was saying that she lives in constant pain. And so that without her medication is not being relieved. I don't know if there's a way through these communications that they can negotiate getting her medicine to her as part of the proof of life or some, you know what I mean? Because I mean, before Monday, before this other deadline, because every hour it impacts her. At least the pain wise. I'm not sure, and I don't need to know what the other medication is, but I'm just saying for sure, at least so that she's comfortable. I'm sure it's not going to be an easy sleep either way. But I mean, she's 84. There are certain considerations to caring for an 84-year-old, right? And yes, she lived by herself. So she is, what is the word? Ambulatory. She's able to move herself around, is what I'm trying to say. And so but also in her own home, like we know where our things are, we can move around in our house in the dark, etc. It's not the same when you're somewhere else. Like, did she have a lift assist to go to the restroom? How is she able to do that? Are they helping her with that? Like, you wouldn't want some stranger like helping you bathe or helping you, do you know what I mean? Like just the dignity that she deserves. I hope that it is being preserved. And obviously the sooner she can get back to her family, the better. So if for no other reason, I think it's good that we talk about it and at least get confirmed information out. If we're speculating, state that we're speculating. If somebody has seen something, please come forward. There's a $50,000 reward. If you haven't seen anything, send good vibes or prayers if you believe in prayers, to lift them all up, the family, her children, her grandchildren, and obviously for Miss Nancy, because it's almost a week. Because right now it's Saturday morning that I'm Saturday at 3:18 that I'm recording this. So in 24 hours, it'll be less than 24 hours, like 22, it'll be a week that she's been gone, that she's been without her medication, without her own clothing, without her own bed, toiletries, all, all of the creature comforts that we take for granted and we probably appreciate even more as we age, and so I just want her to be safe and get home. All right, if you guys have heard anything else, I think that's all that I've heard in the coverage today. So I know the president weighed in. I was not clear from his statement if DOJ was going to be more involved, if they were offering more resources, but he did reference the FBI, which we knew were already involved. They were canvassing neighborhoods. There were shots shown of them going knocking on doors, I'm sure asking for footage or people have seen anything. Um, Maybe if the white van had a visible license plate, they're checking license plate readers or just looking for unusual traffic. Like a license plate reader could pick up a car coming in and then out in an hour, right? Because they were in about like 40 minutes, I think we said. And so those are all little things, but it takes time because you have to triangulate that data. I'm hoping it doesn't take as long as like what we saw in the Markel case. I mean, they were able to do it, like buses pick up things. It's extremely dark there. Oh, that was the other thing I learned today. So there is an ordinance, a light ordinance. They call it light pollution. We had that in some spots in LA. So at certain times you can't, in the evening you have to turn lights off. They can't be too bright. And that was one of the things that was in the ransom note about one of the lights being out, one of the floodlights like being out, probably a light that came up on motion. Maybe they, is it bursted? Maybe they did that and that's how they knew it was out, to report, to confirm they had been there. So at any rate, I guess someone was criticizing the sheriff for not bringing out floodlights for the search immediately because the sheriff did not want to violate the light ordinance, right? And so this person, it was in the Brian Entin, Entin interview with the law enforcement. I think this gentleman worked Border Patrol, if I'm not mistaken. I'll put a link in the description. But so they were being mindful of that and perhaps lost time, perhaps not. I mean, everybody, is doing a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking, but we're not the ones responsible. So I think prayers over the people who are responsible and who are calling the shots, or good vibes, whatever you believe in, would be nice. Like, let God, let positivity, let whatever it is you believe in guide them, give them good judgment and courage to make the hard decisions and to make them quickly. All right, guys, that's all I've got. Let me get my outro ready. I'm doing well. I'm exhausted. I'm going to figure out the sleep situation in my house. I hope you're well. For all the chronic pain sufferers, I hope that you are well, hanging in, getting what you need, being able to relax as you need. Okay, guys, I'll talk to you later. Toodles.